Welcome back to Reimagined Energy, the podcast that sparks ideas and conversations about Canada's clean energy future. In this episode, we're joined by Alexander Ross from Highmark Power, a company that's made serious strides in building the EV charging and solar infrastructure Atlantic Canada needs. We'll talk about what it takes to install over 100 DC fast charger plugs and what innovation means in an industry where technology and construction go hand in hand. We'll also talk about workforce development, safety practices, and what's next for Highmark Power. Let's get into it. Hi, Alex. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Maria. Thanks very much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Well, we're here to talk about Highmark Power. You guys are doing a lot of amazing things, which we'll get into in a couple of minutes. But I'm just curious, what inspired the founding of Highmark Power, and how has the company's mission evolved since its inception?
Yeah. We're kind of involved in a lot of the clean energy infrastructure projects around Atlantic Canada, as people may or may not know. Yeah, basically our company was founded in 2022. So we're about three years old. So fairly, recent founding and new company. But our president, Mark McDonald, sort of saw a gap in the market sort of around 2022 after working in renewables since around 2015, and looked at sort of what was available and sort of who was out there, and saw that, there's a real sort of opportunity for contractors and skilled, sort of skilled tradespeople to fill gaps in the market for, specific clean energy projects, and really help both other contractors do projects and bring specific skills into the game, but also take on more of a full scope approach for building these things from the ground up effectively. So yeah, I think that's kind of where we began and sort of how the founding principles came together. But since then, like I mentioned, we've sort of helped, on larger projects, help other contractors fill gaps in electrical and civil capabilities, but also have done sort of full scope projects, starting with sort of residential and smaller scale solar and battery projects for customers. And since then, sort of evolving our mission and our capabilities to do more larger scale multi-site projects in the commercial space, in EV charging, in solar, and in battery storage. And then we've, with time, evolved our capabilities to take on more and more scopes. So starting with electrical and then adding in civil and trenching and driving ground screws and piles and excavation and sort of the full civil scope, so that we can sort of come in and handle, kind of start to finish within our own team. So yeah, that's kind of where we started and where we are now. And we'll probably get into some more details.
You like Highmark Power, you've completed over 100 DC fast charger plugs, which is really, a big thing for EVs in Atlantic Canada. And they provide more than like 200 megawatts of, you've also done 200 megawatts of solar installations as well. Tell, tell everyone what have been the key challenges and the successes in executing all of these projects. What's it been like?
hmm Yeah, it's an exciting time at the moment for for EVs and for solar in our
Hmm.
province and across Atlantic Canada, as you mentioned. So yeah, it's definitely an exciting moment, and I think the adoption curve is really starting to take off, which we're proud and excited to be a part of. So yeah, like you mentioned, we've been involved in a lot of DC fast charging projects. We've done about 2 megawatts, not 200 of solar, but hopefully we'll get to the 200 megawatt mark at some point. But that's a future goal. But yeah, in terms of challenges and successes, I'm sure as you and many other people listening have found, I think some key challenges are, getting the right people in place and building a sort of a high performance team. I think currently, just due to supply and demand dynamics in our industry, we're often struggling to find the right skills and the right sort of workforce opportunities in the market currently. Although there's many organizations like NSCC and other training organizations that are rapidly scaling up their programs and delivering more sort of workforce development and the key skills that industry is asking for. But yeah, definitely getting, the right skills and the right sort of training
Yeah, that's
for our
important.
team is critical. I think secondly are the many of the changing kind of market conditions. This is a very rapidly developing industry, and
Yeah,
as you've seen, and as I'm sure many of your guests have mentioned that kind of supply and demand imbalances in the market are a challenge to deal with at times. Through the coronavirus pandemic and also through supply chain ongoing issues, getting electrical gear and getting equipment at the right time can be a challenge because there's just a huge demand in the market for transformers and
yeah,
switch gear and wire cabinets. All the sort of key components of the energy transition are in high demand. So that can often make for some challenges. And then I think just the regulatory environment. There's new sort of programs, funding programs, regulations, interconnection, permitting, all those sorts of key components are often in flux and influenced by the political environment and, the sort of broader macroeconomic environment and sort of what's available from government and from other organizations. Navigating the sort of constantly changing market dynamics it can be a challenge, but also there's a ton of opportunity there. And then, just sort of like regulatory and financing stuff, like I mentioned, is sort of something you need to invest significant resources in tracking and making sure that kind of what financing and funding is coming down the pipe and how to take advantage of those programs. Yeah, so I think those are the main challenges. And then for successes, we've been very lucky to have a number of them over a short period of time.
hmm,
I think, on the flip side of the workforce and the people question is we've, been very fortunate to build a great team and have some awesome people in place doing really high quality work, which is obviously key because, at the end of the day, we need to deliver the highest possible quality to our clients and make sure that, all of our clean energy tech is working as intended.
right.
As you and other EV drivers know, showing up to a faulty charger is one of life's greatest frustrations. So we're trying to
Oh yeah,
avoid that as
range
much as we can.
anxiety for sure kicks in, for
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's
And
talk about,
yeah.
sorry, are there any more successes? Because, I want to jump into the construction side of things.
Mhm.
With this EV charging infrastructure that's being built, I would imagine that there's a difference between urban and rural environments. So, how does Highmark Power adapt to these urban versus rural?
Yeah, definitely. It's a great point. I think,
Hmm.
as EV drivers have picked up on, there's a huge discrepancy in terms of, where infrastructure is available and
Yeah, I mean,
how fast chargers are and kind of, spacing them appropriately for road tripping and for
exactly. Yeah.
shorter versus longer trips. So there's definitely a big divide in rural versus urban. And I think also it's important for designers and for infrastructure builders to consider the adoption of EVs in more rural areas. Obviously, it's lagging behind urban, but I think that's sort of a chicken and egg. Once chargers are more available in rural areas, then people have the confidence to adopt the technology and sort of change the lifestyle around the technology of it. But yeah, definitely for urban areas, we have some unique challenges there. I think often we're operating in fairly space constrained sites, so we have to be much more deliberate and thoughtful around how much space we're occupying with our construction activities and machinery and gear and all that
That's
kind of
true.
stuff. So being mindful of minimizing our footprint and minimizing disruption for surrounding communities and businesses and the rest.
Hmm.
There's often a lot of underground, utilities and infrastructure that we need to navigate around for urban areas as well. Like, there's underground, sewers and water lines
Right.
and,
Pipe, yeah,
fiber optic
natural gas.
cables. Yeah, exactly. So we need to be, very aware of all those sort of underground obstacles and make sure we have a precise sort of locates on everything that's going on. We also have much higher, typically much higher visibility from the public when operating in urban areas. So we need to be mindful of, engaging with the public and engaging with site hosts to make sure that everyone is sort of on board and is sort of up to speed on what's going on and not sort of
Yeah.
throwing a anger or being sort of unaware of things that are coming. So we try to be as proactive on communication as possible and also make sure that pedestrians and traffic are controlled. So I think just overall better coordination and planning and with site hosts and the public is critical in specifically urban areas. For rural, I think We have less of those, space and public facing constraints. There's typically not as much underground utilities
Yeah.
and obstacles. But we do also have some additional issues we need to work around, like logistics, getting materials to site,
Right.
working with subcontractors that may be, 2 hours away, or it just increases the overall cost and complexity of getting materials and sort of sub trades to site, and the logistics and coordination of all that. So I think costs and sort of planning and coordination can be a bit more challenging in some of our more rural or remote sites. But again, there's plenty of opportunity there, and I think that they bring a lot of value for increasing the overall adoption of EVs and of clean energy technology in general.
Definitely. What do they call it in the rural areas? Uh, like an EV desert. So those are
Yes,
becoming
exactly.
less and less, which is the goal here, right?
We're trying to create some oases in the deserts. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly. Well, how does Highmark coordinate with clients? And you touched upon it a little while ago, but you have clients, you have utilities, you have permitting authorities. All these ensure the successful delivery of a project, on the clean energy side. So, how do you coordinate all of these balls in the air? Let's say.
Yeah, definitely. It's a sort of an ongoing process that we're working on to kind of streamline that and make sure that we're always as proactive as possible. As I think, yeah, I think you sort of touched on that. Is the communication element is always critical. Between clients and utilities, and permitting, and making sure we have the right steps in place, because making sure that everyone kind of knows what's going to happen, and who needs to be where, and when is often the biggest challenge that we face. So again, it's a work in progress and something that we're constantly trying to improve. But I think, yeah, communication from the start. We try to sort of meet all stakeholders at the beginning of a project. Meet on site, kind of make sure that everyone knows what's going where, the timelines. When we're going to be occupying space, when we're going to be digging, and sort of taking up valuable real estate for clients and site hosts. So being proactive and meeting all stakeholders, and communicating sort of our plan in general, identifying obstacles, identifying deliverables, and kind of when that's going to come down. And we do try and use like sort of automated reporting tools as much as we can to be proactive around daily updates, and sort of providing pictures and photographic documentation of everything we're working on, so that the client, each day can kind of see a report and say, okay, cool, they did this, and this, and here's the photos, and things are moving, according to plan. So we do try to leverage as much as we can, the sort of more automated reporting tools, and standardizing our processes in that respect. And then we do, in terms of utilities and permitting, we do have quite a lot of experience sort of navigating the permitting and utility requirements across Atlantic Canada, which differ, sort of as you alluded to, across jurisdictions and across utilities. We work with inspectors, we work with the permitting authorities, to make sure that our code compliance is dialed in at every step, and that we're meeting all of our code and other legal requirements. And then we try to build relationships with permitting authorities and inspectors, and making sure that we kind of know what they're expecting, and know what the sort of key milestones are from their perspective, to really help streamline things. Because I'm sure, as many of our colleagues in the industry know, that could be a challenge if we're working across jurisdictions and there's new permitting or code requirements you need to consider. And I think that kind of ties in well with what's being talked about at the federal and provincial levels now in Canada, on sort of streamlining interprovincial trade and trade barriers. Because even in Atlantic Canada, between New Brunswick, PEI,
Right.
Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, there's different authorities and different permitting and licensing requirements across each province. So I think the more we can, as a country and as a province, do to streamline permitting and licensing across provinces, will be a huge help to
It
our
will be.
industry, and make it easier for companies to move across provincial borders and
Yes.
do more with less effectively. So that's something we're hoping they make progress on soon.
Exactly. As I'm talking to you here, I can see a bolt, electric uh, bolt or voltage behind you, which brings to mind the safety component. I know that a Highmark, you've received, recognition. I think it was the 2024 Safety Bar or Safety Star Award from Avetta. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, you have safety's got to be a huge thing for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, yeah, I mean, Maintaining, a rigorous safety standard
Hmm.
is obviously fundamental to our mission overall. The colleagues of ours in the construction industry can appreciate the sort of importance of maintaining, a good safety record for not just our mission and making sure we can accomplish as much as we can, but also taking care of our people and taking care of our colleagues, and making sure everyone gets home safe every day, and that there's no incidents. And if there are incidents, that we report and document everything carefully to avoid that going forward. So we've implemented for the last several years a company-wide safety program. We have a colleague on who is a safety manager and full-time focused on developing and improving upon our existing safety program, and he's doing an excellent job. We really focus on training and knowledge building. So everyone on our team goes through a safety training program and gets certified on a number of different fundamentals, from electrical safety to first aid to underground and sort of excavation and all those sorts of key components to what we're doing on a daily basis. We also implement sort of a daily practice within our team. So we have a higher safety strategy. We also try to bring that into a daily practice where we do, a safety review every day, a daily tailboard where risks and safety issues are called out and discussed by each team each day. And that's documented as part of our
That's
safety,
great.
reporting routines that come through our platform.
Hmm.
And then, so everything's recorded. And then we also, go through a number of certification processes annually, which sort of, as you mentioned, we've been recognized by a few organizations for sort of year-over-year safety performance, and those are audits that are done by Avetta and ISN and CORE and WCB and a few others. So we make sure we go through those processes and get audited and make sure our processes are up to speed and aligned with sort of best practices. And then, I think like you mentioned, it's critical for our team performance, but also building and maintaining those client relationships, because larger corporations and partners that we are engaged with are very focused, obviously, on safety and maintaining high performance across the board. So it's something we're obviously very dialed in on and focused on a daily basis.
Yeah, big time. How does innovation play, with Highmark Power's service offerings, like particularly, around, the the emerging technologies? Let's say, like, there's microgrids that are on the rise, there's energy storage systems. How do you guys keep up with all of these new technologies that are coming out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a very exciting and rapidly evolving space. So there's tons to learn about every day and tons to keep abreast of, I think, from an industry knowledge perspective. And like you mentioned, we're involved in a number of microgrid projects and sort of the integration between batteries and solar and EV charging and other sort of energy sources. I think, we don't, from our perspective, we're not a traditional sort of technology innovator. We're not building and creating new clean energy tech. But I think where we focus on innovation and where we focus on sort of bringing something new to the table is by refining our construction processes and bringing new ideas and new tools and new equipment and new processes to the field, and effectively integrating those within our process and within our projects. Constantly working with new energy storage companies to sort of learn about their technology. More and more now DC coupled versus AC coupled, and how we build more efficient systems using those technologies. We're also looking quite a lot at vehicle to home and vehicle to grid technology from a backup and from a grid stability perspective, and how we can install more of that technology and how we can kind of integrate that with what we're doing across our portfolio of projects. So I think we're constantly kind of bringing new tech in. We're using a lot of cleaner solutions from a construction standpoint, from electric plate tampers to new electric tools that we're implementing. We have electric vehicles in our fleet that we use both for hauling gear and transporting our equipment, but also for running our job sites and powering tools and all the rest of it. So we're using EVs as effectively mobile batteries in a sense to power our job sites, and bringing new kind of tools and stuff into the mix, which is great. So I think just trying to stay in touch with our suppliers. We work with Tesla, we work with a number of other companies that are sort of at the forefront of innovation, and we're constantly getting new products, trying them out, figuring out how they fit with our existing processes. So it's constantly a learning journey.
It sounds
It's
like
great.
you're leading by example as well, which is really great to.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Now, looking ahead, what are your strategic priorities for the next 5 years? As we advance, these clean energy solutions here in Atlantic Canada. So, for Highmark Power, I mean, you must have things are rapidly evolving and changing. So, what do the next 5 years look?
I think the next 5 years are going to be very exponential from a clean energy
Mm-hmm.
perspective. So I think we should all be excited and looking forward to it. I think the tailwinds of growth and of opportunity in our space are substantial and kind of decoupling in a sense from subsidies and from broader sort of political movements. So I think we're on a track for much more sustainable growth and less to sort of more external factors, just because our costs are coming down across the board for technology. Solar panels are at record lows in terms of price per watt, and energy storage systems are coming down. Electric vehicles are far more accessible. Charging technology is improving constantly. So I think, yeah, there's a huge amount of opportunity. So the next 5 years are going to be awesome for our industry. And yeah, I think from our perspective, we're a very small business currently, but we're looking to continue our growth trajectory. We're going to be investing in sort of building our brand and building our marketing sort of capabilities to get the message out and get people interested in clean energy and interested in the industry in general. We'd like to see more business owners, more farmers, more industrial facilities get interested in optimizing their energy consumption and doing more self-generation. So that'll be something we're going to be definitely focused on for 5+ years. We also really want to focus in on building out our team in strategic areas. So adding roles that are going to boost our productivity and our skills, and bring in new knowledge areas. Like we're focused now on sort of breaking into the wind energy sector, which is a good growth area for Atlantic Canada. We're also looking at sort of taking on more recurring contracts on maintenance and sort of making sure that our projects and technologies that we're installing now are maintained and kept in optimal performance for many years to come. So really building out skills and knowledge on maintenance and optimization, sort of more recurring contracts like that. And then I think, yeah, finally, we're going to be doubling down on training, knowledge development, and safety performance. So as new technologies come out and innovation continues at its current pace, we want to be abreast of that, be on top of everything that's coming out, and be really kind of leading on bringing that to Atlantic Canada and bringing that to the industry, so that we can maintain our leadership and maintain our ability to keep things moving at a rapid clip. So that's what we're going to be focused on, and yeah, I'm hoping that we can work with you and with many others in our industry locally to make sure that we get the best people in Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada, and we get the best companies, and that we're sort of leading the way into the future.
It's wonderful. Thanks so much, Alex, for your time today and sharing your insights. And, I'm looking forward to these DC fast chargers and the future projects you guys are working on. And thanks for your time today. It was awesome.
Absolutely. No, I very much appreciate your time as well, Maria, and thanks again.
Thanks for tuning in to Reimagined Energy. A big thank you to Alexander Ross and the team at Highmark Power for sharing their story and giving us a look behind the scenes of what it really takes to build a clean energy infrastructure from the ground up. If you like this episode, share it with a friend, leave us a rating, and don't forget to subscribe. New episodes drop every week. For more insights and updates, visit us at Reimagined Energy. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep reimagining what energy can be. I'm your host, Maria McGowan. Thanks for tuning in.